you run an agency or a coaching business or an online service-based business, the biggest lever that you can pull to scale past 100K a month and beyond is delegating yourself in sales calls and sales as a whole. Now, in this video, I'm going to give you a full overview and a step-by-step guide in terms of how to actually replace yourself booking sales calls and how to actually replace yourself in sales so that you can focus on needle-moving tasks like content, paid ads, and the operations of the business. Now, real quick, if you don't know me already, my name's Tom Hyder. I run a company called Systemized Scaling where we help coaches, consultants, agencies, service-based businesses scale past 100K a month by placing setters, closers, and replacing them in sales, booking them 80 sales calls extra in a month, or they don't pay. Let's get into it. So step one to completely automating sales for your business is delegate appointment setting. Now, appointment setting is probably one of the most high leverage tasks to replace when you're below that 50K a month range. If you're below 50K a month, the first hire I would urge you guys to make, if it's not an editor, of course, is to replace yourself in the DMs or the dials. Now, first things first, you've just got to see, okay, what's my best channel for booking sales calls? Two type of mediums. Firstly, paid ads or a VSL. Secondly, Instagram or LinkedIn DMs or any type of DMs. Moral of the story, either DMs or it's calling. If it's VSL or paid ads, typically the leads come in through a lead list or they opt in, and then you need to get a dialer to call them up and book them in as soon as possible. Okay, so that's for paid ads. You hire a dialer, someone who's good on the phones, someone who can call up leads as quick as possible. And typically commissions is 3 to 5%, but dialing is quite a hard role and it's quite tough. So I would always recommend going for 5% commissions because it's going to motivate these people to actually stay on board. And add a bonus. You don't have to start off with, but bonuses are an absolute life hack. Typically it could be X amount of closes each month or cash collected. One of the companies that I first ever closed for, it was 10 closed deals. If you got 10 closed deals of your set appointments, these are for the appointment setters, then you get 7% commission instead of 5% commission. Now, this motivated appointment setters at the end of the month to absolutely crush it, and it really worked wonders. Now, in terms of Instagram, LinkedIn DMs, Twitter, whatever, you just hire an appointment setter. I wouldn't go any less than 5% commissions. Definitely add a bonus. Of course, if you don't want to do it to start off with, that's fine, but bonuses absolutely crush. Now, in terms of dialers and best practices and what to look for, you want to look for personality and differentiation over scripts. Scripts are good, but how many cold calls do you get every month? You probably get a fair few, and everyone sounds the same. This strikes up sales resistance, and it means a lot of people just don't listen to you. So when you're coaching your dialers or when you're hiring dialers, you want to look for personality and differentiation. This means, yes, give them a framework, give them a script to use, but urge them to use their personality and humor to stand out, okay? Where you can do this is by calling someone up and just being different, right? Using humor. Didn't mean to disturb you. I'm not sure if you're in the bath or not. Cringy stuff, but anything to differentiate yourself, right? You want to make yourself look like a friend, or the appointment setter, a friend versus a stinky salesman, okay? You could even say, by the way, this is a dirty cold call. It's not going to be too long of your time. You got 2 minutes? Yes, all right? Stating the obvious, differentiate yourself using humor, okay? And this is the most important part for the success of a dialing funnel. For a dialer to work, speed to lead is the most important factor, okay? Because if you don't contact someone within 5 minutes of their opt-in, they're going to forget or lose impulse, right? So very, very important. The one thing that you can tell your dialers if you hire one is to make sure speed to lead counts. So for example, I'll show you exactly how I track speed to lead for my sales teams that I run. I have an automation which tracks all the leads, all the emails, phone numbers, the date and time of opt-in, and also the date and time that they actually got contacted. So I have it hooked up to Go High Level or a CRM to see anytime there's a phone that's been dialed to that specific lead, it'll log down the opt-in time. So this is how you can track how quick your dialers or your appointment setters are getting in contact with the leads. For example, this one wasn't within 5 minutes, but it was within about 12 minutes, which is still a pretty decent speed to lead. Okay. Next one is show value initially, send over content, assets, give vague, tailored advice to increase the buy-in and trust. Now, a lot of people strike up sales resistance and they don't want to speak to cold callers, but if you show them that you have value And if you show them value on the front end, they're going to trust you more and they're going to think, okay, this is the person that could potentially help me fix my issue. How can you do this? You can listen to their objections. You can listen to their problems either on the cold call or on the DMs, and you can send over content or give insights that's going to directly relate to that objection. So they will feel like a lot more personalized in the process instead of just volume blasted by a dialer. Okay. And the last one is they must be hungry, right? Not the soft type. As I said, dialing, it's a tough gig. It's a really tough gig. So if they're a soft type and they're quite picky, then don't hire them, right? You want to hire people relatively early on in their career, as if not, they probably will move on and go into a better role fairly quickly. So someone not with no experience, but someone with not loads of experience in sales. Someone who has good communication skills, but don't have enough experience to go into a closing role or a DM setting role. Now, in terms of DM setting, again, speed to lead and follow-up is extremely important. Follow-up more so. Yeah, speed to lead's good, but follow-up is really important because a lot of people in the DMs, Instagram, LinkedIn, sometimes they just forget to reply, right? So your appointment setter needs to be popping a little message. Are you alive? Are you there? Did I miss something? Or some form of follow-up message to reignite the conversation between 30 minutes from inactivity or a day. Any longer than a day, if your appointment setter is not following up, this is too long. Okay? Really, really, really important. You can either do this by sending humor, sending a joke, or sending over content. If someone doesn't answer, send over content or YouTube video that's going to directly relate to their situation. Okay? They also must match the tone and personality of the key face on content. Right? If it's B2C, typically casual, friend, you can use stuff like bro, man, etc. If it's B2B, return on investment, logically based, and straight up. No one wants to just go through the appointment setting process if it's B2B. And depending on the market, they typically know their score. They typically know they're in an appointment setting conversation. That's why straight up, value-based follow-up, sending over content, just getting straight to it is very important. Now, this point is probably going to make or break your whole funnel. It's so, so, so important. And it's the time between the call and when the call gets booked, right? So the time between the call and when the call gets booked, even when the appointment setting conversation starts, the amount of nurturing you can do in that time will directly correlate to how many people close and how many people show up to the call, right? So if you want to increase show rates, increase your closing rates, nurture them as much as possible, right? The way you can do this is listen to the conversation, see what the conversation is flowing, and you want to see what the main concerns, the main bottlenecks for them are, and the main objections that are coming up. And based on those, send objection handling content, YouTube videos, content assets to them to try and nurture them and handle their objections. Okay? Like imagine if you booked in a call, didn't speak to anyone. You show up to the call, you have all these questions, concerns, whatever. As opposed to booking in a call and then an appointment setter will handle all your questions, handle all your objections, answer any concerns. Then you show up to the call, saving so much time. You pretty much know if you're going to buy it or not. All you need to do is just hear a tiny bit more about the offer. So, so, so important. And ideally, someone who works on weekends to take care of the leads all the time. Now, typically when I'm hiring for sales teams, weekend workers, at least on a Saturday or a Sunday, at least one day on the weekend is a non-negotiable for me. Because a lot of people, they go on their phones on the weekend, right? So if you're missing out on that, you're toast. Now, let's move on to hiring and onboarding. This is really, really important part. It's a make or break to your whole sales process. So the way you can look for dialers and cold callers is high ticket sales communities, job boards. Referrals are a really good one. If you know good appointment setters or business owners who hire good appointment setters, ask if they have any appointment setter friends or business owners, like I said. What you want to do is you want to ask for an initial Loom video of their experience and who they are. And you can look on these videos for confidence, energy, and presentation. I would say confidence and energy are probably the most important parts to look for on a Loom because it shows how enthusiastic someone is to do the work. Okay, and if they have energy, if they have confidence, they probably have a high drive as well. Right, and you can sort of tell on these initial Looms who's going to be a good fit or not, just based on their presentation, based on how they carry themselves, based on their effort. Okay, and in interviews, what you want to look for is offer compatibility. Right, this is very important when hiring for roles. You've got to see, okay, what level is my business at, and what level is this person at? If you have a business that probably will pay them an on-track earnings of, let's say, $2K a month, and you have a killer appointment setter who has got so much experience, they're probably going to want to make 5K a month. So they're probably going to bounce pretty quickly. So you want to find the line between someone who's not too inexperienced, but someone who fits your offer, right? In terms of their experience, in terms of where they're at, and their earning potential goal, right? Likelihood of staying long-term and determination is what you want to look for. Now, in the first week is a make or break for closers and setters, right? And you want to be doing daily coaching calls, 30 to 60 minutes, running through how you would answer certain questions, right? So pull up questions, pull up screen share, pull up the DMs or call conversations that you're listening to and see what objections come up, see how they react, all right? And then you want to ask them, okay, how would have you restructured that answer, right? Give them small iterations, feedback on a daily basis, and ask them to send screenshots or send them questions regularly, right? You want them to absolutely pepper you in the first week. So many questions, so many screenshots. How would you have answered this? This is how I would answer it. And then they can learn so much quicker. So the first week, it's all about adapting as quick as possible and finding their groove, giving them enough feedback for them to improve and hit KPIs. And once they hit KPIs, once they're booking a decent amount of calls every single day, typically 3 to 5, depending on your offer, you want to run 3 to 5 team meetings a week and trainings a week. Don't just let them do their thing because they get bored and they won't get fulfilled, right? Some people are motivated by money. Some people are motivated by learning. So you want to give them both of that, okay? Track their data for closers and setters. So important. Everyone thinks it's boring, but I promise you, this is going to allow you to see if it's working or not, right? So metrics you want to track is calls proposed. How many proposed calls did they make? How many links did they send? How many calls did they book? Conversations, follow-ups, show rate, etc. If they're not if they're booking a lot of calls, but proposing a lot of calls, then that's how you know they're booking a lot of calls. If they're not booking a lot of calls and you can see they're not proposing a lot of calls, that's how you know they need to improve their propose rate. Okay. Now, step 2 is delegating sales calls. Once you've delegated appointment setting, you have a way to get consistent bookings on a regular basis qualified. Now, you're probably the one taking sales calls, or if you've already got a sales team, you want to get better closers. So most common commissions for a closer is 8 to 12%. Now, this depends on the volume of deal flow. If you only get maybe 2, 3, 4 deals a month, pretty high ticket, you probably want to increase the commissions, right? Because you want your closer or setter to be making a decent amount of money. If not, they won't stay, right? I typically offer 10% most commonly. This is for B2C coaching programs or B2B coaching programs. If it's agency, yeah, maybe 12%, but it really depends. Now, closers, again, offer compatibility is so important, right? There are really top tier closers, there's mid closers, and there's pretty average closers, right? If you have a business that isn't able to give them a decent commission, let's say anything under than 50K a month, 10% commissions, they're probably going to earn 5K a month, right? So you want to judge how much your offer can pay them depending on how much experience the closer or setter has, right? Over 50K a month in cash collected for your business, you probably don't really need to worry, because if you get over 5K a month in commissions for a closer, they're not that bothered unless they're a top tier closer, all right? Just got to bear in mind the experience, and if not, they'll leave, right? You must have 10 sales calls booked a week with at least a 20 to 25% closing rate yourself. Now, if you haven't figured out how to close above 20%, then you should not hire a closer, because they're going to not close as much as you because you're the face of the brand. So it's just not going to work. So only hire a closer unless you have over 10 sales calls a week and you're closing above 20%, right? Now, in terms of hiring and onboarding, high-ticket sales communities, job boards, referrals from other closers, the exact same as the setters. And in the initial loom that you ask for, experience who they are, look for confidence, energy, and presentation. Confidence and energy, again, is amazing. Look, I would prefer to hire someone with so much confidence and energy and decent communication skills, but less experience, than someone with less confidence and energy, but more experience. I promise you, sales is about transferring energy. Right? So if you can't make people feel like they want to change, if you can't make people feel like this offer is the offer that's going to really help them, then however much objection handling or word tracks you can teach them, like, it's not going to do anything. So you want to look for energy. That's what I look for: determination, grit. In interviews, look for offer compatibility again, likelihood of staying long-term, and communication skills. Again, energy, and how much you like them really. Like how much you actually get on with them, because that's actually going to show how much the prospect is going to get on with them as well. Now, when onboarding a closer, the most important factors are sales pitch and how quickly they learn everything. This is why the organization is key. Okay, so first week, I'm only really focusing on sales pitch. If you have call recordings that are pretty good, if you have call recordings of closed deals, non-closed deals, but you think they're pretty good, then send them over. Allow them to match it. Or if you don't have that many good call recordings, maybe you have closers that aren't that good, or you're not that good at sales, don't send them over call recordings. Only just go through the pitch, because the sales process can be taught. Objection handling discovery can be taught. The sales pitch, if bad objection handling, bad discovery, sales pitch is what's going to sell to a certain extent. So first week, you want to focus on the sales pitch, daily team meetings, daily coaching calls, running through, pitch practice only, mainly. Role-playing, pitching the offer, okay? Excuse me. Like I said, first week's about adapting as quick as possible, finding their groove, giving them as much feedback as possible. Once you feel like, after a few days of training calls, they're ready, they're pretty good at pitching, give them a half calendar availability or just a couple calls a day to test. You don't want to waste ad spend, or you don't want to waste calls. You want to see if they're doing all right, if they're pitching good enough, if they've got the good process, right? Of course, you want to give them a framework or a script to go off. If you don't have that, pop me a message on Instagram at Tom Hyder, or just book in a call below and we'll see how we can actually help your business. But you want to make sure you review their calls on a daily basis. Don't shortcut this. Daily basis reviewing of sales calls. And you want to give them 1 to 2 needle movers. Don't overwhelm them. Don't give them like 20. Give them 1 to 2 needle movers that they can improve on, because that's going to really help them just improve. All right. After a week of calls, evaluate if you want to keep them on, if they're a good fit, and then just give them full calendar availability. All right. And ramp up is as follows. You want to follow these KPIs to see if your closer should stay or not. Now, you don't really know if a closer is really going to perform until 50 live calls. So at 50 live calls, if they're not at 20 to 25% closing rate, then it's probably not going to work. If at 10 to 20 live calls, they should be at 15% closing rate. If not, and you can sort of gauge if they're on the right track, you can keep them on. But I would say 50 live calls, 20, 25% closing rate, 10 to 20 live calls should be at least 15% closing rate. And by live call, I mean actual taken call, not a no-show call, right? And once they hit KPIs, run 3 to 5 team meetings or trainings a week. Call reviews, objection handling, offer training, etc. Depending on how good they're doing, if they're closing at like 50%, you could just do 3 calls a week. If they're not, 5 calls a week, right? And the most important, and this is what we build out for our clients as well, data trackers, CRMs, absolutely everything, track their data, the average order value, how much they're collecting as opposed to the full amount, right? Show rate, close rate, cash collected, right? I'll give you an example. If you know the average order value and it's pretty low, you know that the main bottleneck is they're maybe pitching payment plans too easily, or they're not holding their ground at the end of the sales call. But that's pretty much it. That is pretty much a vague overview in terms of how to replace yourself in sales and automate sales completely. Now, if you want me and my team to place closers and setters, train them up, ramp them up, replace yourself in sales and book 80 sales calls extra in the next month, or you just don't pay at a 25% closing rate, then either book in a call below or just pop me a message on Instagram. But I hope you have a beautiful day. Cheers.